The office was buzzing like any other day, phones ringing, keyboards clattering, and workers rushing to meet deadlines. But in one corner of the room, humiliation was about to take center stage. A black woman, dressed in her modest office attire, sat quietly at her desk, unaware that she was seconds away from being disrespected in the cruelest way possible. Suddenly, splash. A cold, sticky stream of Coca-Cola poured over her papers, dripping onto her clothes. Laughter erupted around her as some co-workers smirked and others pretended not to notice. She sat frozen, her dignity drenched along with her dress. But what no one in that room realized was this. The man she would call later her husband wasn't just anyone. He was a billionaire. And within hours, the people who thought they could get away with such cruelty would lose everything they had. Because sometimes one act of humiliation in the workplace can spark a storm powerful enough to burn down an entire empire. The entire office froze. The Coca-Cola spilled across her blouse, dripping down her arms, staining the floor with dark patches. The sound of the fizzing liquid seemed louder than the air conditioning, louder than the clicking keyboards. It was the sound of humiliation echoing through the room. She wasn't just another employee. She was the kind of woman who carried herself with quiet dignity, who arrived before anyone else and left long after the lights went out. She was the one who picked up the pieces when projects failed, the one who worked weekends so others could go home to their families. She gave her heart to this company, and in return, all she ever asked for was respect. But today, that respect was shattered. Her eyes, wide with disbelief, darted from face to face, searching desperately for someone, anyone, who would stand with her. But no one moved. A few co-workers chuckled under their breath, their laughter sharp as knives. Others looked away, eyes glued to their screens, pretending not to see. And then there were those, the cruelest of all, who leaned back in their chairs, smirking, enjoying the show as though her pain was entertainment. Her hands shook as she tried to brush off the sticky soda, her fingers trembling against the fabric of her blouse. But the stain only spread wider, soaking deeper, like the shame she felt seeping into her very bones. This wasn't just about a drink. This wasn't just about a prank. This was about her humanity, her dignity, her right to stand as an equal. And in that heavy silence, broken only by the faint fizzing of Coke on the floor, she whispered words no one else could hear. Why me? Why did they do this to me? What did I do wrong? But she didn't know. Within minutes, someone would walk through those doors who would change everything. The office air grew heavier, as if every breath carried the weight of fear. No one dared to whisper, no one dared to move. The silence itself was deafening, pressing against the walls like a storm, to look busy, waiting to typing half-heartedly on their keyboards, while others pretended to shuffle papers, but their trembling hands betrayed them. They all knew what had just happened, and what it meant. Suddenly, bang! The sleek glass doors at the far end of the office swung open, slamming against the wall with a force that sent a shiver down every spine. And there he was. A tall figure in a perfectly tailored navy blue suit, stepping in with the kind of authority that didn't need words. His polished black shoes struck the marble floor with sharp clicks, each one echoing like a countdown. The billionaire husband, the man whose empire stretched across continents, the man whose very presence could alter the future of entire corporations. And in that moment, his aura was terrifying. Conversations died mid-breath. Coffee cups froze halfway to lips. Every pair of eyes darted toward him, then away, as if staring directly into the sun. But he didn't care. His eyes were already locked. On her. His wife. Standing in the middle of the office, soaked in Coca-Cola. Her once crisp white blouse clung helplessly to her frame, stained with sticky brown streaks. Her mascara ran down her cheeks, black rivers of humiliation for the whole world to see. He froze. For 1 second, even the air seemed to stop moving. The strongest man in the room, brought to stillness by the sight of his wife's pain, and then His face changed. The calm mask cracked. His jaw clenched so hard it looked like stone. His fists curled, knuckles whitening with every passing second. When his eyes lifted, they weren't the eyes of a billionaire. They were the eyes of a husband, a man who had just seen the woman he loved broken, degraded, humiliated, in his empire. He turned his head, slowly, dangerously, scanning the room. His gaze swept over every employee, every trembling face. It wasn't just a look. It was a silent judgment, a silent promise. Someone swallowed nervously. Someone else looked down at their desk, as if hiding could erase guilt, but no one dared to speak. The silence became unbearable. It wasn't silence anymore. It was a noose tightening around every neck. The ticking of the clock on the wall grew louder, echoing like a drumbeat of doom. And then it happened. A small soda can, kicked accidentally by someone's foot, rolled across the floor. The metallic sound rang out in the silence like a gunshot. Every head snapped toward it. Every breath stopped. And then his voice cut through the air, low, steady, and dripping with controlled rage. Who did this? No one moved. No one answered. The fear was too thick, too suffocating. But he wasn't looking for an answer. He was measuring their silence. And that silence was the most dangerous answer of all. The billionaire's voice still lingered in the air like thunder after a lightning strike. Who did this? The words echoed in every corner of the office, vibrating in the bones of everyone who heard them. And then, boom! His rage erupted. The calm, commanding man was gone. What stood before them now was a storm, a force of nature no one could contain. His eyes blazed, his chest heaved, and his voice, once smooth and collected, roared through the office like a lion breaking its chains. You dare humiliate my wife in my own company? Papers flew as his fist slammed against the nearest desk. The wood cracked under the impact. The sound jolted everyone from their seats, some even gasping in fear. The billionaire stepped forward, pointing directly at the cluster of employees who had been laughing only moments earlier. His finger was not just a gesture, it was a weapon, sharp and final. You think this is a joke? You think cruelty is entertainment? Let me show you what a real joke looks like. Your careers. Gasps spread across the room. Someone muttered under their breath, "Oh God." Another clutched their head, already sensing what was about to come. He didn't stop. He wouldn't stop. You're finished. All of you. Today, right now, your jobs are gone. The words hit harder than any slap, harder than any punishment. Some begged instantly, voices trembling. Sir, please. It wasn't me. We didn't mean. But his hand shot up, silencing them. Enough. The word echoed like a hammer against steel. The walls themselves seemed to shake. He turned his gaze to the HR manager, who sat frozen in his chair, pale and sweating. Get their termination letters, every last one, and I want them out of this building, now. Chaos erupted. Chairs screeched, people scrambled, pleading, crying. The same employees who mocked and laughed only minutes ago now clung to their desks, begging for mercy. But the billionaire's face remained unflinching, carved from stone. And then, his eyes softened, just for a moment. He looked back at his wife, still standing there, drenched, humiliated, silent. That look said everything. This wasn't about money. This wasn't about power. And in that moment, everyone realized the truth. This wasn't just a firing. This was justice. Delivered by the one man no one dared to cross. Silence. For the first time since the chaos began, silence filled the office. The billionaire stood tall, his wife by his side. The group of employees, once arrogant, loud and mocking, now shuffled like shadows, escorted out one by one. Their laughter was gone. Their pride was gone. Their jobs were gone. but the weight in the air was not lifted. No, something even heavier replaced it. The billionaire placed his jacket gently over his wife's shoulders. Her hands trembled, but when her eyes met his, a spark of strength returned. She was no longer just the victim. She was the reason for this storm, the symbol of a lesson no one would ever forget. And then he spoke. Not to her, not to them, but to everyone. Let this day be remembered. His voice was calm again, but sharper than any blade. Respect is not optional. Dignity is not negotiable. If anyone dares to think otherwise, look at what just happened here. He paused, his gaze sweeping the room like a final judgment. And then, the twist. A man in a dark suit stepped forward. Unknown to most, he had been standing quietly in the corner the entire time. His presence was commanding, but his smile, unsettling. He clapped, slow, deliberate. "Impressive," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "But tell me, do you really think this ends here?" The billionaire's eyes narrowed. His wife gripped his arm. The man stepped closer, lowering his voice so only a few could hear. "You may have fired them, but someone far more dangerous was watching everything. And trust me, this is only the beginning." A chill spread through the room. The billionaire didn't flinch, but deep inside he knew. This battle was over, but the war had just begun. The camera lingers on his wife's face, still strong, still unbroken. Then it cuts to black.